is a big one and it's finally here. We're pitting two of the big action cameras out right now against each other. This is the GoPro Hero 7 Black. This is the Insta360 One X. And stay tuned to the very end as I'm giving away a free one of these, the One X. Make sure you're following me on my Instagram for all my behind the scenes. If you're new around here, or maybe you've seen my stuff in the past, I've been using both these cameras a ton in my latest videos. All links will be down below. Today's video is going to be super fun. Without further ado, I'm Ben from AuthenTech. Let's jump right in. First and foremost, pricing. GoPro 7 Black is normally at $400, but it's actually price drop right now on Prime down to $350, so it's nice to see a sale. Insta360 One X, it's a similar price point right at $400. Second, I have to put this disclaimer in here. I bought the GoPro myself. The One X was sent to me by Insta360, but no sponsorship today. Also, throughout this review, I have to keep reminding myself the GoPro is obviously recording a flat perspective, approximately 12 megapixels and 4K video, versus the One X. It's recording spherical 360-degree video in all directions by these two collective lenses working together, capturing a total of approximately 18 megapixels or 5.7K video. The more pixels the better, right? Well, most of the time yes, but remember on here, they're all being stretched across a wide field of view of 360 degrees, while the GoPro has all of those pixels concentrated in a field of view of about 118 degrees wide. So first things to compare, let's stack up image quality, sharpness, level of detail, and dynamic range. It's harder than you think to match up shot for shot a GoPro versus 360 cam, but here's my best side-by-sides along with some switching back and forth. For the most part, I tried to leave color, saturation, and exposure all unedited and straight out of camera. The One X naturally shoots a bit flatter color profile, which is perfect if you want to run some color grading in post. However, GoPro might have that slightly punchier colors and contrast straight and ready for sharing out of camera. Now in this sequence, I synced the clips together, ran them side by side, and here's a few of my observations. It's crazy to see the GoPros rocking back and forth while the One X is holding a super tight and impressive stabilization. We'll see a lot more of this as we continue. The One X always has the benefit of having that crazy ultra wide angle if we want, or we can zoom in for a tighter field of view. The creative control is in your hands. We can see up in the sky on the GoPro, it's maintaining a bit more clarity in the blue skies, while the One X is blowing out the sun a bit more. Also notice just how much faster it feels like we're cruising down the sidewalk when we have that super wide angle on the Insta. It feels more immersive, like we're right there, while the GoPro in this same shot feels like the speed is a bit slower. Here's another sequence testing out video stabilization, just starting with a simple walking test on selfie stick. Both do a nice job of smoothing out little bumps and wobbles. Funny how the GoPro has my face too dark and underexposed while the background is maintaining better clarity. The One X is opposite. My face is more clearly exposed but blowing out the background. This is a quick audio test on the GoPro Hero 7 Black, and this is audio on the Insta360 One X. Let's live AuthenTech. Let's live AuthenTech. This one, I'd say GoPro is the clear winner. Now both are quiet, but the One X is way too quiet and picking up all the surrounding sounds like that of the water fountain. I had to raise the audio levels on both the cameras just so we could hear my voice. I also don't believe that the One X supports external microphone recording just yet, so that's on my wish list. Here I switched to a quick jogging stabilization, and here we start to see a more clear difference. The GoPro still doing a nice job of smoothing out the footage, though there's still some wavering around as the horizon doesn't stay perfectly level, and it can't without a gimbal. The One X, however, almost feels like you're shooting on a 3-axis gimbal. It's always keeping that horizon straight and level, smooth stabilization, no matter which way we toss and throw the camera around. Now here I extend out the selfie stick from Insta. This one stretches out to 10 feet, which produces some killer shots. I also just love how the camera looks like it's almost floating mid-air with this invisible selfie stick effect, and you'll see lots of this throughout as well. I'm incredibly impressed with the One X's stabilization. I fling the pole up and around, I'm able to digitally pan and tilt the camera after the shot, aiming the camera in any direction I want. Also notice here, we can see how much that 10-foot pole is shaking in the shot, yet the video is still maintaining smooth and stable. Alright, this I'm gonna call the chuck the camera in the air test and see what happens. Let's toss the GoPro up in the air first, 4K 30. Ready? And... okay, now how does that shot look? I bet a little nauseating. Yes, it obviously produces a pretty useless shot. Now to be clear, there's some cool products out there like this Air, A-E-R. It's like a dart that you slide the wings together, pop the GoPro into and screw on the head, and now we can much more safely and usefully throw your GoPro around for aerial video and photos. The whole system is waterproof, folds down for portability, and allows you to capture some fun and unique aerial shots with no drone needed, all on your standard GoPro. It's pretty cool. Next, I'll toss the One X in the air and see what it looks like. 5.7K, 30 FPS. We can see just how crazy wild the camera is spinning and rotating in all directions, yet it's doing a pretty dang good job with horizon stabilization. Now, of course, I'm using their durability protective case, which allows a bit of safety when chucking your camera around. But when you throw your own camera, do it at your own risk. If we want to step it up a bit, we can click the camera right here into the drifter dart. The fins add a bit of stability and protection to the lenses, and I showed a bit of this in my impossible flying camera video. Make sure you check it out after this one. Here's just a few of the amazing clips that we could capture. Some of you might be wondering, well, why the heck would I even want to throw my camera in the air? Well, here's just a few examples why. Moving on to hyperlapse, which is basically a term for moving time-lapse. GoPro calls it time warp, Insta calls it time shift. I actually made a whole video showcasing this sweet feature of the GoPro time warp, and it does a nice job. Insta360 can basically do the same thing. The big deal though on here is that since you're recording the standard 5.7K 30 FPS video clip and then adding the hyperlapse speed up effect later in post, we can control certain segments of the shot to ramp speed up or slow down, change the perspective, focus on different interesting subjects in the frame, then ramp it back up. In the mobile app, we can determine the variable frame rates, motion blur, it's nice we can turn it on or off, and the perspective. It's kind of like GoPro time warp on steroids. I couldn't forget a quick low light test, and here's a few photos and video clips. Both cameras are fairly noisy and grainy with sort of okay dynamic range. Stabilization is again better on the One X, I'd vote. However, since it's so aggressive with that EIS, sometimes we'll get that stuttering frame effect, so just be aware of that. In photos, here's GoPro first, and then the One X, and then both of them side by side. Overall, I think GoPro is producing those slightly sharper images with better exposure and dynamic range. Neither are awesome in low light, but I'd personally vote GoPro better for photos, Insta better for video. Alright, and this test I'm going to call it the selfie stick cool shots test. Basically, I'm going to use the exact same selfie stick with both cameras, GoPro and One X. And let's say I want to make some sick shots of this cool Cycleboard Rover. First, we'll start with the GoPro, capture some cool shots on the Rover, montage it together and see how cool it looks. Alright, we're rolling on the GoPro first, 4K 60 FPS. We'll extend out the selfie stick and see what kind of cool shots we can capture. All right, and how did those shots look? I just finished recording and check this out. Frozen camera, it's fully up to date. Seriously, GoPro? So unfortunately, this isn't the first time or uncommon. Gotta eject the battery, too hard reset. Let's hope that clip was even saved. Phew, that has happened to me before. All right, now I'll be shooting with the Insta360 1X, 5.7K, 30 FPS, same selfie stick. Let's see what kind of cool shots we're able to capture with this camera. My guess is that the quality isn't going to be as sharp as the GoPro, obviously, but we're going to capture some more unique fresh perspective shots. All right, here we go, rolling on the 1X. Let's see what cool shots we can capture. All right, and that was shot on the 1X. How does it look? Here's my key thoughts and we'll jump into the giveaway. The 1X feels much more of a dynamic, immersive shot, and that just makes sense because it's an ultra wide angle, allowing you to see all the surrounding scenery, making you feel like you're right there in the action. I really enjoy placing the 1X on that extended selfie stick and swinging low to high or vice versa. It creates these super cinematic, wide sweeping crane-like shots, which are super unique and impressive looking. I also really like the idea of capturing shots like this on my electric scooters, never needing a gimbal ever again, never needing to worry if the camera's pointing back in the right direction or is my scooter or head still in camera frame, and whichever direction I fling the camera around, high or low, left or right, I can always then reframe the shot perfectly afterwards in post-editing. And no worries on a level horizon with smooth stabilization. Now, the funny thing is, the very idea of recording in all directions, one of its greatest strengths, is also one of its greatest downfalls, that post-production workflow. I can't just yet drop these clips right into Final Cut, snip, snap, and then export. It's a bit lengthier than that. We have to either convert files or reposition the camera with keyframes, and don't get me wrong, Insta360 has made it much easier with their mobile app, or they just released this big update on their desktop studio app to place keyframes, edit perspectives, smooth camera pans, and then export the clips in 1080p. But you get the idea. With a GoPro, we can go from shooting, edit, and then posting right away. With the 360, we have to shoot, then reposition the camera angles, then edit, and then export. It's just that one big added step in the workflow. One small and slightly unknown feature that the 1X has is something they call direction lock. It's a little toggle that basically allows you to lock the point of view to a set perspective. This way we could almost treat it like a GoPro. No need for keyframes after the fact. So whichever way we're pointing the front of the camera pans with it. Yet tilt and rotation axis is locked and stabilized, just like a gimbal. It's very cool and might deserve a whole video how-to in itself. So a lot of people ask me, Ben, should I get a GoPro or an Insta360? And I say it depends on your situation and shooting scenarios. Are you needing a camera that will be used out in the rain, mud, or underwater very often? Well, even though the 1X has that waterproof and durability case, which is nice to have, GoPro has this built in, which is awesome. Do you want or need a camera that's simple and straightforward? Just point the camera in a locked off position and boom, that's it? Or instead, are you looking for super dynamic, unique, clever angles and cinematic shots? Maybe you're riding on vehicles or fast-paced shots that you just never know where the cool action might take place. This way, 360 has every angle covered and you'll never miss the shot. This adds a bit of peace of mind as well. Are you full-time or aspiring filmmaker or content producer? Then maybe you'll want both in your camera bag. There's plenty of use cases for both cameras. Maybe you're in real estate or architecture. This camera could open a whole world of 360 photos and video tours of your spaces. The list goes on, and here's one small but random example. I was at CES in Vegas filming a quick interview with Sean, and as a second camera angle, I recorded it on my 1X. And what was cool is I was able to digitally move the camera around after the fact, almost like I had a camera assistant panning and tilting the camera for me. This was a super fresh and easy second angle to cut in with the interview. Another thing to note, if you're publishing content in 4K, well then the GoPro hands down wins for better sharpness and quality image. Now if you're posting a lot of 1080p or social media content, well then the resolution might be less of a deciding factor. I'll say it again, I can't wait until Insta360 introduces a 12 or 16K dual sensor into something handheld like this. That will be game changer. Now onto the big giveaway. This is for a brand new free Insta360 1X. All you've got to do is make sure you're subscribed here and over on Insta360's channel. Hit the thumbs up, place a comment down below, letting me know what you'd want to capture on the 1X. YouTube recently removed the direct message feature here on YouTube, so while you're at it, make sure you follow me on Instagram and drop a comment on my giveaway photo. I'll pick a winner in just a couple weeks. All the best of luck, guys, and huge thanks to Insta for providing that giveaway unit. Until next time, let's live AuthenTech.